Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot reader, and professional witch, and today I'm talking about the color black and color magic. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it for free is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. If you love the podcast and want to support it further, here are some other offers. You can join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family, where you can get an individual card pulled for you once a month on the podcast or a one-time individual 5-card reading. I recently recorded an hour-long video episode for the new moon that we welcomed in on October 21st, 2025. So if you missed the live, you can check out the New Moon Collective Tarot Reading replay, and I'll have one coming up shortly on probably around the 20th or 21st of November as well, since we'll be about a moon cycle away. As a bonus for the Queer Joy Summit that wrapped up in October, I created a Queer Coven Spooky Tarot spread and wanted to give you all a chance to grab it even if you weren't a part of the summit. So it's Halloween and queer themed 6-card spread, and you can still grab that. It's a PDF that has the image. It's a bat with the 6 cards on the spread, and then the 6 prompts as well. And I believe it's still spooky season. I'll probably celebrate until December. Until solstice. I was recently on Kayla Moore's Connected Pleasure podcast. You can check out my episode of Kayla's podcast, where we talked all about living by the body, dreaming of land, and weaving the future. We had a super fun conversation, and Kayla and I actually swapped, so we've already recorded, but they are going to be on this podcast as well, talking about their experience with tarot and oracle cards, how they approach it, and we do a live reading on the podcast. So I have a link to Kayla's offer page in the show notes at connectedpleasurecoaching.com, and I am looking for more guests to be on the podcast, so if you are interested or know someone that might be a good fit, you can fill out my form to be a guest on the podcast. I am working on creating an entire season of guests, and as you know, I like to have 13 episodes, so I'm about halfway there. Still need a couple more folks to hopefully interview in the next 6 weeks so that I can get that season out to everyone. Those will be video episodes, so that will be very fun as well, recorded on Zoom, and you can watch them on video or of course just listen as well, but those will be posted. And if you want to work with me more directly and perhaps you don't live local to me, I am kicking off my Tarot for Transformation monthly workshop starting in January 2026, where we will deep dive into the major arcana cards to discover our best selves and create a life worth living. So each month we will deep dive into one of the major arcana cards. I'll be doing a probably 2 to 3 hour monthly workshop. I already have the date for the first one posted, so you can sign up at the link for more info. You're not committed yet, but that way I'll just know that you're interested, and I can start sending out more information to you. If you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist and coach, seeing individual and relational clients virtually all over from my home office. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. So if you'd like to work with someone that doesn't judge you, is witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now to start your journey. You can go to CamilleASaunders.com to find that. Maybe you've heard me talk about creating your own tarot cards and you're like, that sounds cool, but I do not have art skills. Well, no worries. You can learn how to create your own tarot cards with collage. So I did a virtual workshop that I recorded, so you can get an hour-long recording. It's got the step-by-step method in it, examples of the cards I've made, so you can have some inspiration, different journaling questions to help you brainstorm how you want to create your deck, and a PDF to walk you all through it for just $33. So the link is in the show notes to grab that now. It's super fun. Once you learn sort of the methodology, you can go off on your own and create your own tarot cards forever. Hopefully create a whole deck. I would love to see it. All right, yeah, and if you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, my lovely listeners, at the beginning of the year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date info on upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. If you're local and you want to meet me in person, you can check out my Let's Talk Tarot meetup group. Our next event is celebrating the full moon as part of our full moon women's circle. You can join my colleague Izzy and I under the glow of the full moon for an evening of connection, reflection, and ritual. We meet at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma the first Sunday of the month to welcome in the full moon together. So the last full moon of 2025 will be celebrating on December 7th. We are going to have a New Year's event as well, still pending on, we know it's going to be January 3rd. It's going to be at Thresholds Collective also in Tacoma. Probably going to be a slightly longer event. We still have yet to get up our invite or our tickets, so TBD, or those are pending. We're working on the beautiful images to put on there and creating the meetup event, but just so you know, that will be on January 3rd from 2 to 4 p.m. at Thresholds Collective in Tacoma, and we're still kind of dreaming up what that's going to look like, but get excited because don't worry, we're not done with full moon circles, but this will be the last one for 2025 on December 7th. Generally, we spend 90 minutes kind of doing different things. Izzy leads us through the astrology related to the full moon, so we can kind of get a full picture of that. Then we usually go into some journaling or reflection time. I do a collective tarot pull, and then we usually go around and all pull tarot oracle cards for ourselves with a prompt. Do again some reflection and sharing, see what sort of synchronicities across the group people have. Then we enter into an embodiment or somatic practice depending on the full moon, that it looks differently. We've done dancing, we've done stretching, we've done restorative yoga poses, and then we always end with again a little bit of journal time and then a releasing ritual where we write down things that we're releasing or manifesting, again depending on the energy of the full moon. And then we go outside, we put them, write them down, put them in my mini cauldron, and go outside and we burn our pieces of paper to release the things that we are letting go of or manifesting. So that's kind of what our circles look like. Again, the New Year's one will be a little bit different. It'll be a little bit longer, and we'll be also entering into the new year's and thinking about that kind of energy, but things to look forward to. And then you can always find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, welcome to season 18, where I'm talking all about color magic. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. And today I'm talking about the color black. And of course, black, as we learned in elementary school, is, right, we have white, which I'm going to talk about next episode. Right now we're talking about black. That black is the complete absorption of visible light. So actually it is this sort of absence of color. Like I said, next episode I'm going to talk about white, so we'll get into sort of that. But often symbolically or figuratively, black represents darkness. And again, we often talk about, we have phrases in English like black and white thinking, or good and evil, or dark ages versus enlightenment, night versus day. We put these in describing opposites or duality. So we're going to talk about sort of that color and then magically what it means. So let's get into it. I've been referencing different folks talking about color magic. So on rachelpatterson.co.uk, they talk about black, the color, as being about protection, warding negativity, removing hexes, spiritual contact, truth, removing discord or confusion, and binding for spell work. On the forum spells8.com, talking about, again, color magic, they talk about, actually they don't talk about black on this one. And then on the tarotprofessor.com, they talk about this is again color symbolism in the meaning of colors in tarot itself. So last episode we talked about yellow and the color symbolism in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck with yellow. So as we talk about black, so yellow, right, is often about light, and black is this sort of darkness. So what do we often think when we think about the color black? Darkness, death, fear, negativity, loss, or grief, and that is reflected in the tarot cards as well. So I pulled some of my tarot cards that sort of show symbols using the color black, and there are commonalities across them. So Pamela Coleman Smith, who was the artist of the original Rider-Waite-Smith tarot deck, chose colors for a reason. And again, everything we see in the imagery of the cards is there to help us interpret the intuitive messages we're getting. So common tarot cards that have black on them, especially if they're modeled after the original Rider-Waite-Smith cards, are the Devil, the Tower, or the 9 or 10 of Swords are some of the ones I can think of. They sort of carry negative energy, like limitations, addictions, disaster, loss, and fear. That's often, part of why they contain black, the color. And even if you don't know how to particularly, or perfectly articulate the meaning of those specific cards, you get sort of a negative feeling from the black color, because again, the color black is like the void of all other color. I really enjoy that in the Goddess of Love tarot deck by Gabriella Herstick, for the Fool card, which is associated with the number 0, right? Also, sort of the void of numbers, or the void of, things. They literally use the word the void instead of using it as the Fool, right? The Fool represents the beginning of the journey, but actually, right, the Fool again is the number 0, which is the sort of like beginnings, endings, right? If we think of the look of a 0, right, it is sort of this, it's, what am I trying to say? It is this sort of wheel aspect of sort of the beginnings and endings when we think about the major arcana cards. Let's see, what are other cards that sort of show that how the color black represents loss or grief? Often the 5 of Cups card, often completely covered in heavy dark black cloak. The person is, there's a dramatic black figure in the center of an otherwise bright card, right? And the number 5s in tarot are sort of the middle. They're in the between ace and 10 aspect in the minor arcana, and the person in those cards is often weighed down by melancholy or regret or grief. So again, the cards suggest our negative, sorrowful mindset might be causing us to neglect other cups, right? Or emotions or other things in our life. So that is sort of how it can show up in sort of traditional tarot cards. Like I said, I pulled some from my decks, but I wanted to refer to some of the references I like to use as well. So I talked about the days of the week correspondences in the last 2 episodes. And so on the one that I use, black is associated with the planet and god of Saturn. It's associated with magic, dealing with banishing, change, death, motivation, reincarnation, understanding, and wills. And that is what we celebrate on Saturday, which is Saturn's day. So on Saturdays, I wear black generally. And again, you can sort of interpret with the planets and the gods different colors, but that is sort of what is traditionally associated with it. And it's interesting because I would say the color black, or sort of the void of color, using black is often associated also with witchiness, right? Like black hats, black cats, black cloaks, just a lot of, again, the sort of like traditional cards in tarot, like death, the devil, the tower, sort of these like transformative cards, often associated with the color black as well. And just, I think, right, there is this sort of idea often in the witch world of like light work and dark or shadow work, or light magic and dark magic, which again sort of puts black in the negative. But if we sort of remove our judgment of the word negative to mean bad, and we think of, right, like I'm thinking of like literal photographs, right? When you take a photo with a film camera, you have sort of like the negative, which is, right, sort of the opposite of all of the colors that show up. And again, for folks that dealt with film cameras or still do, right, like you need that in order to get all of the colors. So I guess I'm just saying, like, when we think of black and white as duality, we shouldn't just think of white is good and black is bad, right? Again, like this comes up with racism, as whiteness gets equated to good and moral and innocent, and blackness often gets attributed to like corruption or negativity, or like, again, this sort of literal darkness associated with things, again, like the devil or the underworld. But really, like, we need both parts. Again, maybe we can think of more like yin and yang. You need both parts to create the whole. It's not, again, that white equals good, black equals bad, like in which are pagan circles, when you talk about your shadow sides of self, it's like those things are just as much of a part of you as the sort of like other parts. And there just is this sort of, I don't know, people get kind of caught up in, especially in therapy world, I would say, of like toxic positivity, which I think of, I'm like looking at the sun card right now, right? Again, to me, that is sometimes what is associated with the sun card, is like, just be happy, be positive, be bright and optimistic for the future. And it's like, that is not right. That is one card in all of the major arcana. The moon is, right, the sun's opposite in tarot. But you need both parts. Like, again, if we lived in a world in which the sun was out all the time, 24/7, which of course it is, but we don't see it 24/7. It exists 24/7. We would be exhausted, right? If there was no time to recuperate or to allow our bodies to kind of like shut down for the night and recuperate, and like our big brains would not exist, right? Like we would not be able to come up with all the brilliant things or sometimes destructive things that we do. We need both things. You need the duality of it, and all of it together, again, is kind of the thing that we need. It shouldn't just be that we take half of it and decide that those are the good parts and to only focus on those. That was a bit of a rant, I would say. But again, in tarot, black in symbolism, right, again, stands out as part of things that are often associated with death, the devil, again, the underworld. So I pulled from 3 different decks, 2 cards each that showed a lot of the black symbolism, and some of which I talked about earlier that came up in the tarot, color symbolism and tarot article, which are, let's see. So the death card. So from the Anima Mundi Tarot deck by Megan Weirer-Wenden, I pulled Death, which here is depicted as a snake shedding its skin. It has an entirely black background to the card. The word death is in black, and then we have white roses or some kind of flowers, which again are often, I think of, like associated with funerals, or like a thing that you bring to a funeral, which again sort of shows this like black and white oppositeness. But again, here, when we think of the death card in tarot, it's often not about literal death, right? It is this more a snake shedding its skin, right? It's like the end of a cycle and the start of a new one. And in the card, the snake is like half shed and half new, right? So it is almost like this wheel of the year idea that there are no beginnings and endings. It is all connected to each other. From that same deck, I pulled the 10 of Swords. So the 9 is the one that they talk about in the article. This 10 of Swords, again, the whole background is black, although it's sort of a starry night, it seems. It's not just black. We have the stars back there. There's a bird. I'll have to look in the book, but it looks sort of like a dove that's been stabbed with 10 swords. There's even sort of this like black, perhaps blood that's coming out of it. So a very sort of, dreary or challenging visual. And again, that is how the 10 of Swords shows up, right? It is this like, I would say, feeling very defeated, even though it's sort of the 10s as the end of a cycle in that way. I'm going to look up what this deck says about this card because I'm curious the symbolism around the bird itself, because this deck picks animals for everyone. It's a dove. Okay. So, right. It says you may have recently experienced a crushing failure, betrayal, or disaster that brings you to your knees. However, you should be mindful of not making yourself into a martyr because of it. The card means you've hit rock bottom, and from here on out, there's nowhere else to go but up. Right. So again, it's sort of this like, okay, this is a part of the cycle, right? And now it's time to move into the next part is kind of what I see depicted with those cards. In the Sasarbito Tarot deck, there were lots of ones, sort of the traditional ones. The Tower certainly has the black background to it. But I pulled some different ones. I pulled the Emperor and the Star. So the Emperor often is wearing black clothes or has a black background. In this one, there's sort of like the Pope symbol is like on the wall as if it's like wallpaper behind the Emperor here. At least like that's how I'm interpreting it. And we see the person is like wearing a black suit. They have like a white shirt on, but then again, there's like black around their cuffs. There's like smoke, and we don't see like much of the person. We only see from their neck to their like hips. So you just see kind of like their torso, and it's just this like, I guess, masculine presenting person there. And the Emperor is often depicted that way, of sort of, right, like hard lines, authoritative, kind of what would be the right word? Like unflinching or uncompromising in that way. But I thought the Star card was kind of interesting because the Star card is seen a bit more, I would say, like positively. And in this one, it's depicted as like the literal stars and like the cosmos. Like we see an astronaut floating out kind of like in space, which also, right, space has black holes, which, right, would be sort of this like negative energy pulling in, but space is also a void in its own way. Like there is no sound in space, because of different reasons. But like if you ever see a movie where they're like screaming in space and there's like lots of noises, like that's not really how space is. I think partially because there's like nothing to like bump off of the sound. Like there are small things, but space is again this sort of, you're just out there floating, right? Like it's sort of its own sensory deprivation area. So it is sort of a void in that sense, right? And again, like in order for us to be out in space, you have to wear an astronaut suit, right? You have to have your own oxygen. You have to have your own regulating temperatures. It's very cold. And so, yeah, I just, again, sort of get this like, it's unyielding, it's challenging to be in, it's, right, it takes a lot of effort and ingenuity for humans to be floating out in space in ways that astronauts do at this time. And then the last ones I pulled are not from a tarot deck, so you'll have to bear with me because you can't necessarily compare them with other things, but I thought that actually both of these cards made a lot of sense. So this is from the Norse Goddess Rune Oracle by, let me find my names here, Rebecca Joy Stark, and artwork by Sharon McLeod. And so the two cards that I sort of remembered as having black symbols on them are Hagaluz, which is the Hell card, which right, is like the being from literal hell. And then we have Tiwas, who is depicted as a Valkyrie. And we have the sort of like black horse and black ravens or crows. And in the Hell Hagaluz card, there is the hellhound, and then we also have crows there. So again, we get these sort of like death imagery. In the Valkyrie card, the horse has like red eyes, right? Sort of like being from the underworld. And both of these cards, the words associated with them. So for Hagaluz, which is the hell card, it says chaos, destruction, and renewal. And it depicts a person who is like half skeletal, so like half in hell and half like on earth. So half, she's beautiful, she has long flowing hair and like roses on her crown, and that again, like the sort of hellhound with her. And then the other half of her is like a skeleton with ice and skulls and the raven or the crows, and a staff with a like deer head skeleton on it. And then in the Valkyrie card, or Tiwas, the rune, it says courage, self-sacrifice, and honor, which I just think, yeah, again, we get these sort of symbols of the cycles, right? We have the chaos, destruction, renewal of like going to hell and back, the cycle, the sort of like endings and beginnings. And then we have the Valkyries, which are, right, about that courage and self-sacrifice, like dying with honor in this way, or kind of like being a, right, warrior, women warriors, that would come in and guide souls to Valhalla, like to heaven, right? Like the, and would choose like the, again, like the, choose the righteous people that would get to go to the Norse, right, version of heaven, which is Valhalla, like the warrior aspect there. And so again, that has this sort of like you're going between worlds aspect, or people that are warrior maidens that get to decide these things in that way. Let's see, is there anything else I want to share about the color black? I think that's all for right now. Let's pull a card on how we can work with the color black today, which again associated with banishing, change, death, motivation, reincarnation, understanding, and wills. So I'm going to grab another deck here. I'm going to pull from the Citadel, a fantasy oracle deck by Fen Inkwright that also uses a lot of black as the color symbolically on here. So on these cards, the back of the cards are black and then sort of have accents of white on them. And then the only colors really depicted on the cards are, they have white backgrounds, but then they only have basically black, red, and then they have sort of like a gold foil on them. I don't know exactly what it would be called, but it's sort of these like coppery gold accents that like actually you can feel on the card itself. So it is sort of like how gold foil works. Okay, so how can we work with the color black today, right? It has these sort of different symbols about it. Which one are we gonna choose to work with today? Interesting. Okay, I pulled the Founder, which is about foundations and community. So right off the bat, I'm like, not obvious to me, right, why this would be the card that comes up. The Founder. I've pulled this card a lot, and I do like it. So It says, to build a community, the foundations must first be laid. What sort of a person must you be to best support those around you? Someone you know may be asking for help, but you may not be able to provide what they need right now. Assess whether you're the right person to assist them, and if not, work out why. What's holding you back from being the best support that you can be? Now is the time to address any unresolved feelings so that when you build the community, you can do it together. And again, the founder is about foundations and community, and it's literally about like the person that would found a city, because that is what, what the citadel is. It talks about the great battles that were fought and the first stones that were laid. In the center, it's depicted the citadel itself, a bastion of peace nestled in the landscape. Among the figures working on the walls, a humble person stands. This is the citadel's founder, the warrior who laid down their blade to pick up the hammer instead. So that, I feel like, gives me more context to this, right? That like if you think about societies or different things that created large cities, or again like a citadel where it would sort of be a city inside of a fortress, often that came through conquering, right? Killing other people or forcing them out of the area. So there is this sort of, right, like I would say like dark side to, right, being the founder or founding something, but also, right, it talks about that the literal founder is the warrior that kind of came in and was like, okay, all this destruction has happened. Now let's like build something. Like, what is it, right? Looking towards more of the future, right? What is it that we actually want to create, right? Sometimes we have to destroy things in order to create something new, right? The phoenix from the ashes idea. And I do feel like that is like the power of the color black, is that like, yes, it is often associated with negativity or death or the devil or the underworld. But again, like that is part of having the things that we can create in the in the sunny parts of our lives, or in the summer part of the year, right? We are going into, at least for me in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in fall entering winter. Like we are entering into the underworld season of the year. And again, like we have to learn how to embrace that part so that come spring and summer, we actually have energy, right? Just like the plants do, to create beautiful flowers or different things, or have more energy to be out in the light during the day. We have to sort of embrace the slowing down, hibernation, cozy, nourishing foods, resting, restoration aspect of winter and the color black in order to, right, create from that. You can't have the creation sort of without the destruction to some extent, even when that destruction is violent and means loss of different things and sometimes loss of life. All right. Well, what an interesting place to end. If you'd like to join me on the journey of using the tarot for transformation, you're enjoying this deep dive into color magic, right? And maybe you want to deep dive into the major arcana cards and think more about archetypes, right? Instead of colors, but how does a particular archetype, like the Fool, as I talked about in this episode a little bit, of the void, right? How do we, what, again, if winter, right, is the time where we are being in hibernation, how do we embrace that? So then come the next major arcana cards, right? The Magician, who creates things and of illusion, and the other cards going in, how do we have the energy to do that, right? How do we embrace the parts of ourselves that are more of the shadow side or the underworld side or death or hibernation in order to embrace the other aspects of the major arcana and parts of ourselves? So if that sounds fun to you, the link is in the show notes to indicate your interest to get more info. We'll be working together for 12 months of calls and journaling. So I'll have workshops every month. You can sign up for all of them in advance and you'll get a discount on the price. But if not, you can sign up for one-off workshops. I'll have the dates planned out and you get to see kind of deep dive into different cards and see what that's like. If you're unable to attend live, you'll get the recordings, so don't worry, you won't miss out. And I'll also have workbooks for you that kind of detail through the information we're talking about, do journaling questions, think about aspects perhaps of color magic, what the different archetypes are, the major arcana cards, what colors are associated with them and what symbolism comes from that, and just doing all the fun deep diving that I love to do. I do think winter is a good time for research, right? To kind of really learning something so that again, when we have kind of more energy and things to go out into the world and do things, right? We can use our internal wisdom and go forth and create more things. So links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast will come out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me at me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, and more. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.